The security camera captured it all, Karen's entitled smirk as she scaled the fence, her confident stride toward the crystal blue pool, and then the moment everything went wrong, what should have been a simple trespass became a life or death struggle as the automatic pool cover activated, trapping her beneath its weight. But as Sarah watched the footage, she realized Karen's desperate thrashing wasn't just about survival, it was about the secret that could destroy them both. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the kitchen window, watching the emergency vehicles flood her backyard like a scene from a disaster movie. Red and blue lights strobed against the pristine white fence that separated her property from the Henderson house next door, casting everything in an otherworldly glow. The paramedics worked frantically around her pool, their voices lost in the chaos of radios and shouted commands. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions." Detective Rodriguez appeared at her elbow, his weathered face grave. "About your neighbor, Karen Henderson." Sarah's hands trembled as she set down her coffee mug. "Is she... She's alive." "Barely. The pool cover malfunctioned and trapped her underneath. She nearly drowned." His eyes searched Sarah's face. "The question is, what was she doing in your pool at 7 in the morning?" Sarah's mind raced. She knew exactly what Karen was doing, the same thing she'd been doing for months, but explaining that would open a door she'd kept locked for good reason. "I have no idea," she lied smoothly. "We haven't spoken in weeks." That much was true. Their last conversation had ended with Karen screaming threats across the fence, her face twisted with rage. "You think you're so perfect, Sarah? But I know who you really are. I know what you did in Phoenix." The detective's radio crackled. "Rodriguez, we've got the homeowner's security footage. You're gonna want to see this." Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten about the cameras David had installed last month, the same cameras that would show exactly how Karen had scaled the fence, exactly how she'd bypassed the pool's safety features, and exactly how she'd known where to find the override switches. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to need you to come down to the station," Rodriguez said, his tone shifting from routine to suspicious. "There are some inconsistencies we need to discuss." Through the window, Sarah watched them load Karen onto a stretcher. Even unconscious, with an oxygen mask covering her face, Karen looked defiant. Sarah shivered, remembering the last thing Karen had whispered to her before their final argument. "You can't hide forever, Miranda," Phoenix remembers. That name Miranda hit Sarah like a physical blow. She hadn't been Miranda in 5 years, not since she'd left everything behind and built this perfect life with David. Not since she'd sworn never to let anyone discover what she'd done, but Karen knew. Karen had always known. The detective was still talking, but Sarah's attention drifted to the manila envelope on her kitchen counter. It had arrived yesterday, no return address, containing a single photograph that made her blood run cold. The photo showed a younger version of herself standing over a hospital bed, her face twisted in concentration as she adjusted an IV drip. The patient in the bed was elderly, vulnerable, and very much alive in the picture. Margaret Whitmore, the woman who died 3 hours after that photo was taken. Sarah had burned the photo immediately, but the message was clear. Karen wasn't just trespassing, she was gathering evidence. The pool had been her next target, probably looking for more proof of Sarah's past hidden in the pool house where David kept his old files. "Mrs. Chen," Rodriguez's voice cut through her thoughts. "I asked if you recognized this." He held up a waterproof bag containing a small device Sarah knew intimately. It was a digital recorder, the same model she'd used as a nurse to document patient care, the same model that had captured Margaret Whitmore's final moments. "Seen it before," Sarah said, but her voice cracked. The detective's eyes narrowed. "That's interesting, because we found it in your pool filter. Your neighbor was holding it when she went under, and Mrs. Chen." He paused, studying her face. "The recording is still intact." Sarah's legs nearly gave out. If Karen had been recording their conversations, if she'd captured Sarah's confession about Phoenix, about the patients who died under her care, "I think I should call my lawyer," Sarah whispered. "That's your right," Rodriguez said. "But first, let me ask you something. Your neighbor Karen Henderson, she's been in your pool before, hasn't she? Multiple times. Someone disabled your security system from the inside. Someone who knew exactly where the cameras were positioned." Sarah's mind reeled. The detective wasn't just investigating a trespassing incident, he was building a case for something much bigger. You see, Mrs. Chen, or should I say Mrs. Miranda Santos, The detective's smile was sharp as a blade. "We ran your fingerprints through the system. Turns out you're wanted in connection with several suspicious deaths at Phoenix General Hospital. Deaths that happened on your watch." The room spun around Sarah. Karen hadn't just been blackmailing her, she'd been working with the police. Every conversation, every threat, every moment of the past 6 months had been leading to this. "Karen Henderson isn't just your neighbor," Rodriguez continued. "She's a private investigator hired by the families of your victims. She's been gathering evidence against you for months, and this morning she was trying to retrieve the final piece of proof she needed." Sarah sank into a chair, her perfect life crumbling around her. "What proof? The hard drive you thought you'd destroyed? The one with the hospital security footage showing you in Margaret Whitmore's room? Karen found it in your pool house last week. She was coming back to get it when the pool cover malfunctioned." The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. Karen had nearly died trying to expose her for killing people. But as she watched the ambulance disappear into the distance, Sarah realized the cruelest twist of all. The pool cover hadn't malfunctioned. Sarah had activated it herself, using the remote control hidden in her kitchen drawer. She'd been watching Karen through the cameras, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But instead of silencing her blackmailer forever, she'd created the very evidence that would destroy her. Because now, Karen Henderson wasn't just a private investigator with a grudge, she was a victim. And Sarah Chen was officially a suspect in attempted murder. The fluorescent lights in the police station interrogation room hummed like angry wasps, casting harsh shadows across Sarah's face as she sat across from Detective Rodriguez and his partner, Detective Mills. The metal table between them felt like a chasm, cold and unforgiving under her trembling hands. "Let's start from the beginning," Rodriguez said, sliding a thick folder across the table. "Phoenix General Hospital, 2019. You were working the night shift in the cardiac unit when Margaret Whitmore died." Sarah's throat constricted. Patients die in hospitals every day. That's not a crime. No. But administering potassium chloride to a stable patient is. Mills opened the folder, revealing photographs that made Sarah's vision blur. "We have security footage from that night. You entering Mrs. Whitmore's room at 11:47 p.m. You adjusting her flatlining at 12:23 a.m. She was dying anyway," Sarah whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "She was in pain, begging me to." "To what?" Rodriguez leaned forward. "To play God? To decide who lives and dies?" Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "You don't understand. I was helping them, all of them. They were suffering, and their families were going bankrupt, keeping them alive for what? To watch them waste away in agony?" "Them?" Mills raised an eyebrow. "How many others were there, Sarah?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Sarah had spent 5 years trying to forget the faces, the names, the grateful whispers of family members who'd thanked her for making it peaceful. But now, under the unforgiving lights, they all came flooding back. "I want to call my husband," Sarah said, her voice barely audible. "David's on his way," Rodriguez said. "But first, let's talk about Karen Henderson. She's been investigating you for 6 months. Did you know she's a former police detective turned private investigator?" Sarah's head snapped up. "What? 15 years on the force before she went private? The families of your victims hired her after the Phoenix DA's office said there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute. But Karen doesn't give up easily." Mills pulled out a tablet, swiping to a video file. "This is from your security camera this morning. Take a look." The footage showed Karen scaling the fence with practiced ease, her movements deliberate and calculated. She knew exactly where the cameras were positioned, moving through their blind spots like a professional. But what chilled Sarah's blood was the time stump, 6:47 a.m. "She was in your yard for 20 minutes before you activated the pool cover," Rodriguez said. 20 minutes where she could have called for help, could have left, could have retreated, but she didn't. Sarah's mind raced. "I don't know what you're implying. I'm implying that Karen Henderson wanted to get caught. She knew you were watching. She knew you'd try to stop her, and she was recording everything." Mills held up a small device, a waterproof digital recorder. This little beauty was in a sealed case attached to her belt. It captured her entire conversation with you from last week. Would you like to hear it? Sarah's world tilted. "We didn't have any conversation last week," No Mills pressed. "Play." Karen's voice filled the room, clear and determined. "I know you're listening, Sarah. I know you're watching through those cameras. You think you're so smart, but you made one mistake. You kept trophies." Sarah's own voice responded, tinny through the security system's intercom. "I don't know what you're talking about. The medical bracelets. I found them in your pool house. Margaret Whitmore's, James Sullivan's, Eleanor Chune's. 8 of them, Sarah. 8 people you murdered." The recording continued, Sarah's voice growing more agitated. "They were suffering. I was helping them. You were playing God. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to get the evidence I need to prove it. The hard drive you thought you destroyed. It's in your pool house, isn't it? Hidden behind that loose brick in the north wall." Sarah's blood ran cold. She'd forgotten about the hard drive, forgotten about the medical bracelets she'd kept as, what? Mementos. Proof of her mercy. Mills stopped the recording. This conversation took place yesterday at 3:17 p.m. Karen knew you'd try to stop her. She was counting on it. "But she almost died," Sarah protested. "She couldn't have planned to nearly drown." "No," Rodriguez said grimly, "but she could have." Planned to survive, Karen Henderson is a certified rescue diver. She's trained in underwater emergency procedures. She knew exactly how long she could hold her breath, exactly how to position herself to avoid the worst of the cover's weight. Sarah's hands shook. "You're saying she let herself get trapped? We're saying she set a trap. For you." Mills leaned back in his chair. "And you walked right into it." The door burst open, and David Chen rushed in, his face flushed and panicked. "Sarah, I came as soon as I got the call." "What's going on?" Rodriguez stood. "Mr. Chen, your wife is being questioned in connection with multiple homicides in Phoenix, Arizona, and the attempted murder of Karen Henderson." David's face went white. "That's impossible. Sarah's a nurse. She saves lives. She doesn't." "Did you know your wife's real name is Miranda Santos?" Mills interrupted. "Did you know she fled Phoenix 5 years ago to avoid prosecution for patient murders?" David sank into a chair, his eyes fixed on Sarah. "Miranda, Sarah, what are they talking about?" Sarah met her husband's gaze and saw their life together crumbling in real time. "David, I can explain. No explanations needed," Rodriguez said. "We found the hard drive in your pool house, right where Karen said it would be. We found the medical bracelets. We found the potassium chloride hidden in your nursing bag. And we have your confession on tape." "My confession?" Sarah's voice cracked. Mills played another recording, this one from that morning. "You can't prove anything. Those patients were going to die anyway. I was being merciful." Sarah's voice, crystal clear, admitting to what she'd done. "You see," Sarah Rodriguez said, "Karen Henderson didn't just jump your fence to swim. She jumped it to get you to confess. And thanks to the pool cover incident, she now has everything she needs to put you away for life." David stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I need air. I need to think." "David, wait," Sarah called after him, but he was already gone. Rodriguez placed a hand on the table. "Mrs. Santos, you're under arrest for the murders of Margaret Whitmore, James Sullivan, Eleanor Chen, and 5 other patients at Phoenix General Hospital. You're also under arrest for the attempted murder of Karen Henderson." As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Sarah realized the full scope of Karen's plan. She hadn't just been gathering evidence, she'd been orchestrating Sarah's complete destruction. Her marriage, her freedom, her carefully constructed new life, all of it, was collapsing like a house of cards. But as they led her from the interrogation room, Sarah couldn't shake one disturbing thought. If Karen Henderson was smart enough to plan all this, if she was skilled enough to survive the pool cover trap, then why had she looked so genuinely terrified when the water started rising over her head? Unless Karen Henderson hadn't planned to survive at all. Unless someone else had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. The county jail cell smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Sarah sat on the narrow cot, staring at the concrete wall, while her mind raced through the events of the past 24 hours. Every detail felt wrong, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. Karen Henderson's terrified face haunted her. Sarah had seen real fear countless times in her nursing career, the wide eyes, the primal panic of someone facing death. What she'd witnessed through the security cameras hadn't been the calculated performance of a trained investigator. It had been genuine terror. "You have a visitor," the guard announced, keys jangling against the bars. Sarah expected to see David, maybe a lawyer. Instead, a woman in her 50s approached the visitation booth, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes cold as winter steel. "Hello, Miranda," the woman said through the reinforced glass. "I'm Dr. Patricia Whitmore. Margaret Whitmore was my mother." Sarah's blood froze. "I don't know what you want. I want to thank you," Dr. Whitmore interrupted, "for killing her." The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Sarah gripped the phone tighter. "What?" "My mother was a vicious, manipulative woman who made my life hell for 40 years. When she developed dementia, I prayed every night that she'd die quickly, but she didn't. She lingered, sucking away my inheritance, my time, my sanity." Dr. Whitmore's smile was razor-sharp, "until you came along." Sarah's mind reeled. "You're grateful I killed your mother. I'm grateful you gave me the perfect opportunity for revenge. You see, Miranda, I've been planning this for 5 years, ever since I discovered what you'd done." "Planning what?" Dr. Whitmore leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Karen Henderson isn't a private investigator. She's a psychiatric patient at Riverside Mental Health Facility. Has been for 3 years, ever since she had a complete psychotic break." The room spun around Sarah. "That's impossible," the police said. "The police said what I told them to say. You see, I'm not just any doctor. I'm the chief psychiatrist at Riverside. I've been treating Karen for her delusions about being a detective, her obsession with solving crimes that don't exist." Sarah's hands trembled. "You're lying, am I?" Dr. Whitmore pulled out a manila folder, pressing it against the glass. "Karen's medical records, 3 years of treatment for severe paranoid schizophrenia. She believes she's still a police officer, still solving cases. She's been institutionalized." Since 2022, Sarah stared at the documents, her world crumbling. But she knew about Phoenix. She knew about the patients. Because I told her. I fed her just enough information to make her believe she was conducting a real investigation. I gave her the address of your house, told her you were a dangerous killer who needed to be stopped. I even gave her the tools she needed to break in." "The pool cover," Sarah whispered. "I knew you'd try to stop her. I knew you'd panic and do something stupid. The pool cover was perfected. Would look like an accident, or at worst, attempted murder. Either way, you'd be finished." Sarah's mind raced, but she almost died. She would have died if the paramedics hadn't arrived when they did. Dr. Whitmore's expression didn't change. Yes, she would have. The casual admission hit Sarah like a physical blow. You were willing to let her die, an innocent woman. Karen Henderson stopped being innocent the day she killed her partner, Dr. Whitmore said coldly. She was a dirty cop, Miranda. She took bribes, planted evidence, destroyed lives. Her psychotic break was really a nervous breakdown when internal affairs closed in. The mental illness is real, but it's also convenient. Sarah felt sick. You've been using her, a mentally ill woman. I've been giving her purpose. She believes she's fighting crime, stopping killers. In her mind, she's a hero. Isn't that better than rotting in a cell, knowing she's a fraud? She's not a fraud. Sarah slammed her hand against the glass. She's sick. She needs help. She needs justice. Just like my mother's other victims deserved justice. Dr. Whitmore's voice hardened. You weren't the only one, Miranda. I've been tracking your work for years. The patients you helped die. The families you convinced were better off without their loved ones. Sarah's throat closed. I was helping them. You were helping yourself. Playing God made you feel powerful, didn't it? Superior to the doctors who couldn't save them. Superior to the families who couldn't let go. Dr. Whitmore stood, gathering her papers. Well, now you know how it feels to be helpless. Wait, Sarah pressed against the glass. What about Karen? What happens to her now? Karen will be transferred back to Riverside as soon as she's cleared. She'll be sedated, medicated, and probably won't remember any of this within a week. Her doctors will tell her it was all a delusion, another false memory brought on by her illness. And David, my husband, your husband, filed for divorce. This morning, he's also cooperating with the Phoenix DA's office. Apparently he found some very interesting items in your personal effects. Love letters from grateful families, newspaper clippings about your victims' deaths, even a journal where you described your methods in detail. Sarah's world collapsed completely. Those were private. David wouldn't, David would, and did. He's also agreed to testify against you in exchange for immunity. You see, Miranda, everyone has a breaking point. Even love has limits. As Dr. Whitmore walked away, Sarah called after her, "Why? Why go to all this trouble? Why not just go to the police 5 years ago?" Dr. Whitmore paused at the door. "Because I wanted you to suffer the way my mother's victims suffered. Helpless, trapped, watching your life slip away while someone else held all the power." She turned back, her smile cold and satisfied. Besides, who would believe a grieving daughter's accusations against a dedicated nurse? I needed proof. I needed witnesses. I needed you to confess. Karen's recording was edited heavily. The parts where she admits to breaking into your house, to trespassing, to harassment, those were removed. The parts where you confess to multiple murders, those were enhanced and clarified. Karen may be mentally ill, but she's remarkably skilled with electronics. Years of police training, even delusional police training, apparently stick. Sarah sank back onto the cot as the truth hit her. You orchestrated everything. The break-ins, the blackmail, the pool incident. You used a sick woman to destroy me. I used a sick woman to get justice for 8 innocent people, Dr. Whitmore corrected, and it worked perfectly. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison, and Karen will spend hers in treatment, believing she was a hero who caught a killer. As the door closed behind Dr. Whitmore, Sarah realized the full scope of her situation. She wasn't just facing murder charges, she was facing a conspiracy 5 years in the making, orchestrated by someone who understood both the legal system and the human psyche better than she ever could. But as she sat in her cell, one question burned in her mind. If Dr. Whitmore was willing to sacrifice Karen Henderson to get revenge, what else was she willing to do? And more importantly, how many other Karen Hendersons was she using to settle old scores? 3 weeks later, Sarah's court-appointed attorney, Marcus Webb, sat across from her in the jail's conference room with a look of barely contained excitement. He'd been assigned to her case reluctantly, viewing it as a career-killing publicity nightmare. Now, his eyes held the gleam of someone who'd struck gold. "Tell me about Dr. Patricia Whitmore again," he said, spreading photographs across the metal table. Sarah studied the images surveillance photos of Dr. Whitmore entering and leaving various locations around the city. "I told you everything." She admitted to orchestrating the whole thing, using Karen Henderson to get revenge for her mother's death. "What if I told you Margaret Whitmore wasn't her mother?" Sarah's head snapped up. "What?" Webb pulled out a thick file. Birth records, adoption papers, DNA tests. Dr. Patricia Whitmore was adopted. Her birth name was Patricia Santos. She has no biological relation to Margaret Whitmore. The room seemed to tilt. Santos, but that's your maiden name, yes. Webb's smile was grim. "Dr. Patricia Whitmore is your sister." Sarah's hands flew. To her mouth, "That's impossible. My sister died in a car accident when I was 12. Your sister Patricia ran away when she was 16. She was presumed dead after her car was found in a river, but there was never a body. She spent 3 years in foster care under a different name, then got herself declared legally dead to start fresh." The photographs scattered as Sarah's hands shook. "Patricia, she's alive, more than alive. She's been tracking you for 20 years, Sarah, ever since she discovered you'd become a nurse. She's been orchestrating a campaign of psychological warfare that goes far beyond what happened with Karen Henderson." Webb opened another file, revealing a timeline that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Remember your first job at St. Mary's in Denver? The patient complaints about medication errors? That was Patricia, posing as a concerned family member. The job in Seattle where you were accused of stealing drugs? Patricia, again. She planted evidence in your locker, then called it in anonymously." Sarah's mind raced through her career, seeing patterns she'd missed. "Every time I got close to a permanent position, something went wrong. I thought it was bad luck, or a sister who blamed you for destroying her life." Webb pulled out a final photograph, a family portrait from 30 years ago. 2 young girls, one blonde, one dark-haired, standing with their parents. "She's been hunting you for decades, Sarah, and Karen Henderson wasn't her first victim." Sarah stared at the photo, memories flooding back. Patricia had been the troubled child, the one who acted out, who stole things, who hurt small animals. Their parents had focused all their attention on Patricia's problems, leaving Sarah to raise herself. She always said, "It was my fault, Sarah." whispered that Mom and Dad loved me more, that I was the perfect daughter while she was the disappointment. According to these records, Patricia has been institutionalized 3 times for various psychological issues. Each time, she's been released into outpatient care. Each time, she's immediately disappeared from the system. Webb spread out more documents. In the past 10 years, she's assumed at least 6 different identities. Dr. Patricia Whitmore is just the latest. She's been a social worker, a hospital administrator, a private investigator, even a police consultant. Always in positions where she could access personal information, manipulate situations, destroy lives. How many lives? Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. We've identified at least 12 people who crossed paths with Patricia's various personas. Healthcare workers, mostly, people she deemed unworthy of their positions. 3 committed suicide after losing their jobs and families. 2 are in prison for crimes they swear they didn't commit, for simply vanished. Sarah's stomach churned, and Karen Henderson is patient 0, Patricia's first successful long-term manipulation. She's been using Karen to eliminate threats for 3 years. The psychiatric facility where Karen supposedly lives. It's a private clinic that Patricia owns under another identity. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. Karen's not mentally ill at all, is she? Karen Henderson is a former police detective who stumbled onto Patricia's activities while investigating insurance fraud. Patricia couldn't kill her outright. Too many people knew about the investigation. So she kidnapped her, convinced her she was having a psychotic break, and has been using drugs and psychological manipulation to keep her compliant. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. She's been torturing an innocent woman for 3 years. An innocent woman who's now in intensive care with severe brain damage from oxygen deprivation. Webb's voice hardened. The pool cover incident wasn't meant to be survivable. Patricia miscalculated. She thought Karen would die, eliminating both you and her most dangerous witness. But Karen survived, barely, and yesterday, she woke up. Sarah's heart pounded. What did she say? She asked for you by name. She said she has something to tell you about the woman who stole her life. Webb stood, gathering his papers. I'm going to petition for your release on bail. With Karen's testimony and the evidence we've gathered about Patricia's activities, we can build a case that you were manipulated, coerced, and framed. What about the patients I killed in Phoenix? Webb paused at the door. What about them, Sarah? Because according to the medical records I've obtained, none of those patients were terminal. None of them were in pain. All of them were responding well to treatment and expected to recover. Sarah's world tilted again. That's not possible. They were dying. They were suffering. They were healthy, Sarah. Patricia fed you false medical information, convinced you these people were suffering when they weren't. She used your compassion against you, turned you into a weapon. The truth hit Sarah like a sledgehammer. I'm not a mercy killer. I'm just a killer. You're a victim, Webb said firmly. A victim of the most sophisticated psychological manipulation I've ever encountered. Patricia didn't just want to destroy your life, she wanted to destroy your soul. She wanted to turn you into the monster she believed you already were. As Webb left, Sarah sank back into her chair, the weight of 20 years of manipulation crushing down on her. Patricia hadn't just been hunting her, she'd been creating her. Every move, every career change, every moment of desperation had been orchestrated to drive her toward that night in Phoenix. But now Patricia had made a mistake. She'd underestimated both Karen Henderson's will to survive and Sarah's capacity. For redemption, the question was, how many other victims were still out there, trapped in Patricia's web of lies? And more importantly, could Sarah find them before her sister perfected her methods and disappeared forever?